firefighters stretched by an unprecedented heat wave. More than 70 wildfires are burning across Queensland as an extreme, unprecedented heat wave blasts the state. This is happening now. Record-breaking heat, unseasonably low humidity, dust storms, and thunderstorms that may not bring rain are in the forecast for parts of the state. Same thing that happened in California, same thing that happened in Finland, Sweden, Norway, Canada, Siberia, Alaska. This summer in the northern hemisphere is happening now in the southern hemisphere. Another headline from multiple sources, this new report. Extreme heat increasing in both summer and winter. A new study in the Journal of Geophysical Research, a publication of the American Geophysical Union, examined absolute and extreme temperatures, high temperatures in summer and low temperatures in winter. The new study found both relative and absolute extreme heat events have increased across the U.S. and Canada since 1980. I realize if you're in the engineered cool-down zones in the U.S., the only anomalously blue below normal temperature location on much of the planet for much of the last decade, because the U.S. has such a massive military, can conduct massive geoengineering, chemical ice nucleated cool-downs. If you're in that region and you think because it's cold where you're at, it's cold all over the world, that is not the case. I will state again for the record, the eastern half of the lower 48 of the United States is 1/200th of the Earth's surface area, 0.5%, 0.5%. That is not indicative of the entire planet. Please look beyond your own doorstep, beyond your own windowsill. Please look at the global picture. It is not getting cooler. It is getting exponentially warmer. And this is not about Al Gore. It's not about carbon credit shams. It's about reality. It's about climate engineering. It's making the issue far worse, not better. Moving on. Greenhouse gases triggering more climate changes than we can handle. This is a recent study published in Nature Climate Change, provides one of the most comprehensive assessments yet of how humanity is being impacted by the simultaneous occurrence of multiple climate hazards strengthened by increasing greenhouse gas emissions. No mention of climate engineering ever from academia, ever. This is absolutely criminal. It's criminal. And I hope people in academia and elected officials and people in agencies understand that when the population wakes up to what is going on and understands what part they may have played or did play in the criminal climate engineering cover-up, they should be concerned about that. And one can only imagine that such an enraged population will hold every single individual that was a part of these programs or a part of the cover-up, that the population will hold them legally and morally accountable. Back to the subject of geoengineered winter weather events and chemical ice nucleation. From Yahoo News and other sources, this new report, dozens of sea turtles, in fact it was hundreds, found frozen to death at Cape Cod. Many of the turtles were found frozen in water. Some of the victims were Kemp's Ridley turtles, the most endangered sea turtles in the world. Quote, it was like they were flash frozen, flippers in weird positions like they were swimming. Robert Prescott, director of Massachusetts Audubon Society's Bay Wildlife Sanctuary, told Cape Cod Times, frozen while swimming. This is not natural. This is chemical ice nucleation. If you've never seen the lab test shown on geoengineeringwatch.org, again, research the entire engineered winter section and look at the lab tests we have that show a lab demonstration of chemical and biological ice nucleating elements freezing a vessel of water instantaneously. That's what's happening. How can you have frozen events like this in seawater that's far above freezing temperatures? And seawater, by the way, doesn't freeze until 28.4 degrees. Seawater is not freezing there, so why is the surface freezing? Because of chemical ice nucleation. It's wreaking havoc in the environment. South America, previous events in recent years killed up to 250,000 alpacas from this process. I've already covered multiple times South Dakota, 100,000 cattle died from a so-called snowstorm in October with temperatures of 40 degrees. Cattle laying around in mud days later because of chemical ice nucleation that killed them in a similar manner. Chemical ice nucleation that so few are not acknowledging. And on that note, let's consider this headline of disinformation. This particular example from ArmstrongEconomics.com. The headline is Global Cooling is Real. It says, while NASA has now confirmed that the outer atmosphere is getting colder, it seems desperately insane for people to keep denying the possibility of global cooling that is already taking place. Really? We've just passed now the 406th consecutive month of above normal temperatures. The only place that's anomalously cool consistently is the eastern half of the U.S. lower 48. And we have disinformation sources like this, whether willingly or because of complete complete ignorance, pretending that these engineered cooldowns are real, and thus confusing and dividing the population as to the true state of climate collapse, and that is one of the primary purposes of climate engineering. Confuse and divide the population on the true state of climate and biosphere collapse until the last possible moment, and sources like this are perpetuating that lie. For the record, Maxwell Beach's
secret government. I call it the shadow government. There's some people call it the deep state. Take your pick. Same thing. We've got the CIA, functions covert programs. They're probably the most out of control because their charter is so loose. The IRS has covert programs. FBI, Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, Department of State, Department of Justice, the NSA, and I have added the National Weather Service and NOAA because, as Dane, I think, told you, the National Weather Service and NOAA are now binding their employees with secrecy agreements so they cannot talk without penalty of prison about some of these climate programs that they're doing. That's called a red flag. That's what we're facing. Here is the first whistleblower, John F. Kennedy. The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. One of the greatest speeches ever given in terms of the Constitution. And there is a very